This video is about angle relationships. We're going to look at how can the facts about supplementary and complementary angles be used to solve mathematical problems. This video is going to take a very basic approach to angles. This isn't going to look at vertical angles, things like that, but it's just a very basic relationship of angles. And what we're going to concentrate on are these two types of angles. The one on the left, which has the little red box, would represent our right angle, and then we have what is called the straight angle, which is a straight line. Hopefully you remember from previous classes in geometry that a right angle is made up of 90 degrees. And we know that a straight angle are two 90-degree angles put together, so that gives us 180 degrees. So we're going to do some deduction and work some math along the lines of using these right angles and straight angles. Now, we do need a little bit more definitions to go through so that we can understand the terminology that is going to start showing up. So let's first start off and talk about how do we read angles. Well, this little mark right here that we see this right there, that is the angle symbol. So when we see that, they are talking about angle ABD. So let me clear this out, and I'm going to highlight it in yellow. This angle ABD is talking about from A down to B and down to angle D right here. So this angle ABD, that's what they're talking about. They're looking for what is this measurement here to here. Now, this also can be said this way. It can also be read as angle DBA. And the reason that we say that is because we can go from this direction, starting with D, then going to B, then going to A. So it can go either way. So that's something to think about. And then if we look at, we get another color here. Here we have angle DBC, and that would be here DBC, which is similar to CBD. And that would be that angle. And we know that they add up together for that 90 degrees. So it's really important to understand how we read angles. So we read from one point down to the center point and out again. Another thing we need to understand is complementary angles. And what complementary angles are two angles that add up to 90 degrees. Now, it's pretty evident. We can see the two angles, ABD and DBC. They're splitting this red box, which we know this red box is 90 degrees. So if we knew the value of these two, we could add them together and have a sum of 90. That's what that complementary angles tell us. Now the same is true for a straight angle. When we have here, we have angle ABD and angle DBC, and they're supplementary angles because they're two angles put together that would give us a straight angle, which is 180 degrees. So if we were to add the measurements of these two angles together, we would end up with 180. There is one more definition that I would like to put out to you, and that is that of the adjacent angles. Adjacent angles are angles that are right next to each other. In other words, they share a leg. So you can see in both drawings, the angles ABD and DBC are sharing the leg of D in both of those angles. So we can say that these angles ABD and DBC are both adjacent to each other. The word adjacent means next to. Okay, so with that basic idea of terminology of lines, we're going to take a look at just 4 basic problems. I think I have 4. And making sure that we understand how we use this. And I think I do have a tricky one at the end. So let's take a look right here at example 1. Here I have, and we kind of notice that we've got this little right angle here. So this right angle is telling us that this angle measures 90 degrees. And what we're trying to find is angle ABD. In other words, when it's asking us this, we're looking for ABD. Now, we know, based on what is told here, that this angle DBC happens to be 40 degrees, and they're adjacent to each other in this 90 degrees. So we can say this angle, and we'll call it angle B just for a shorthand. Angle B plus 40 degrees equals 90 degrees. Okay, and probably most people can see right away what that would equal. So let's follow our setup that we would with solving equations, which would be isolating the variable. And so then what would happen was that these would go away. this 40 would go away, and then we'd be left with that angle B is equal to 50. So if we wanted to know what the measurement of angle ABD was, we would say that it was 50 degrees. Very straightforward, very easy, and most people are thinking, well, 40 plus 50 is 90. We can see that, and we can recognize that that is true. Those adjacent angles are complementary to each other for this angle. Now, what if, though, it looked a little bit more like this, and we have to do a little bit more algebra? So what we do know is that both of these together, this angle here, ABD, and angle DBC, which is 50, if we add them up together, we're going to get that right angle, or that 90 degrees. So let's write what that would look like. That would be 3x minus 2 plus 50 altogether is going to equal 90. Now we have to kind of keep an eye on our signs and follow the rules of order of operations. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at this and say, what's negative 2 plus 50? Well, negative 2 plus 50 happens to be positive 48. So we have 3x plus 48 equals 90. My next step then is to start isolating the variable. So I'm going to subtract 48 from both sides. Okay. And once I do that, that's going to help that to go away, and I'll be left with 3x. And here I'm going to do some subtraction, and I get 42. My last step to isolate that variable is to divide by 3. And once I do that, I find out that x will be equal to 14. So now I found the value of x, which is 14. And I need to know how many degrees this is. Well, this kind of goes back to what we were talking about before. We know if this is 50 degrees, then this side has to be 40 degrees. And we know that if we add them together, we're going to get 90. So we could solve it as a whole like we did just right now, or we could have done a little bit shorter. Just take this one side, 3x minus 2, and set it equal to 40 degrees. We could have gone that route. Instead of doing this whole thing, we could have jumped in right here and just talked about just this piece only, because we know if this is 50, this one has to be 40. So we can solve for x straight up right here. I could, and I'm going to show you right here, I could add 2 to both sides. Once I do that, I end up with 3x equals 42, and you can kind of see where now it's starting to look alike. And then when I divide both sides by 3, I find out that x equals 14. So it doesn't matter which way you do it. I'm offering you a variety of ways to go about it to find out what x equals. So that's what we're doing in this sample. So now let's take a look at a straight angle. Here we have in example 3 a straight angle. And we know that a straight angle, adjacent angles together, are going to add up together to 180 degrees. So we know 135 plus angle B is going to equal 180. So what we'll do is we'll subtract 135 from both sides of our equation in order to isolate the variable. Make that look a little bit better. It's a little messy. Okay. And then bring down the B because these are opposite, so they'll go away. And then we're going to subtract this. And we find out that it's 45. So, which makes sense because 135 plus 45 degrees is 180. Okay, so we found where angle DBC was. Okay, now let's add the algebra in. Let's make it a little bit trickier. Here we have to find the value of x. So we have 3x degrees equals 36. So remember, we could do it one of two ways. We can say 3x plus 36 equals 180. We can go that route if we want to. So let's try that first. Okay, we're going to subtract 36 from both sides. Once we do that, we have 3x equals, because this goes away, and we're going to do some subtraction. That's going to be 144. And then what we're going to do is we're going to divide both sides by 3. And if I do my math correctly, I'm going to find out that x equals 48, I believe. Let's see, 3, 4, 12, 24. Yeah, 48. So we could have done it the shorter version. So let's try the shorter version. We could have just said that we know that 180 minus 36, we know that this side is just 144 because 144 plus 36 is going to give us 180. So we could find that and say, well, how about just 3x equals 144? We could have done it that way and then divide both sides by 3. And we find out that, oops, go to 3, I meant to write an x. We find out that x equals 48. Okay, once again, we're getting the same answer, but you can either decide ahead of time and just find out what that side is and set it equal to that, or you can put it all together saying it equals 180. The choice is yours because it's really like a puzzle and putting the puzzle pieces together. So let's try one more problem where there's a lot more pieces involved. Okay, so what I'm looking for here is I'm trying to find all these angles. So let's start from the top and work our way down. So it says angle ABC. So angle ABC. That's this one right here. We're going to solve that one first. Well, we know that this one's 60 and this one's 90. So we know if we add them together, right? All we have to do to find out this one, and we'll call this, just for the sake of argument, we'll call it y, just for fun here. So we'll say y plus 90 plus 60 is going to give us 180. And I'm going to move that down a little bit. We know if we add all those together, it's going to equal that. So when we combine like terms, 90 and 60 give us 150. We're going to subtract 150 from both sides. And we find out that y equals 30. So we now know that this right here is 30 degrees. So we're going to write 30 degrees. We've got that one figured out. Okay. Now the next one, it says, what is, let me get a different color highlighter here. I'm going to look for angle CBD. And here that one is CBD. And we already found that one, that one's 90 degrees. So I'm going to write 90 degrees in there. Okay. We're going to go to the next one, which is ABF. So this is ABF. So we're going to kind of go down here now. ABF. We're on this bottom piece here. Kind of put the blue underneath it so you can see it a little better. So we're going to be looking for that one. And so we can see the straight angle. The straight angle is right here, right? Along this line, this CBF is at angle. So we know that this angle plus this angle together they're going to give us 180. So we just have to figure out what that's going to be. So let's go. X plus 30 equals 180. All we have to do is subtract 30. If we subtract 30 from both sides, we find out that x equals 150. So we know that this angle here is 150 degrees. So far we're doing pretty good. We've got one more to go, and that was angle ABF. And we have one more. And the last angle we're going to look at is FBE. So let's see if I can find FBE. Or here's F, here's B, and here's E. And that happens to be X, this one right here. So this one actually isn't too bad for us to figure out. So let me get another color in here, and let me roll down just a little bit to give myself some more room. But we can see that it's part of that line again. 90 plus 60 plus something all together is going to give me that 180. So let's figure out what that something is. So I know that x plus 90 plus 60 is going to equal 180. Well, 90 plus 60 is 150. And once again, like I'm solving, I'm going to subtract 150 from both sides. I'm going to scroll down a little bit more to give myself some more room. Okay. Makes this go away. I find out that x equals 30. So this one here is going to be 30 degrees. So we were able to do some deductive reasoning, see some things, put in some numbers to get us the other numbers. That's how we use algebra. Algebra is just deducing what the unknown is. Hopefully you'll find that this lecture is helpful to you in using basic angle relationships.